Hello, in this video, I'm going to show you how to find the x-intercepts from Vertex Form. So hopefully you've already watched my video on how to find x-intercepts from factored form, because we're going to borrow some of the topics from there. Basically, we're going to base our process on how to do this from the fact that x-intercepts have to have a 0 in the y-coordinate. Okay, so to fully explain this, go watch that other video, but x-intercepts have to have a 0 here. And because they have to have a 0 in the y-coordinate, we can replace the y with a 0 here, like so. Now, what you can do is you can solve for x, and it will tell you what the x is. Now, there's different ways to solve, but one of the ways that I find most effective is to just reason through. So we're going to do that right now, and I'm going to invite you to think of this equation in different chunks, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight everything except for that last bit, which is the minus 18, okay? So we know that this equation is supposed to equal 0. Since we know that it's supposed to equal 0, all that highlighted stuff, we can say something about it, right? Since that stuff, once it's all highlighted, or excuse me, the highlighted stuff is going to equal a number, and then we're going to subtract 18, and that's going to equal 0. So that tells me all that highlighted stuff should equal 18. That way we get 18 minus 18 equals 0. Okay. So we're going to repeat that process again, and we're just going to keep figuring out what we can say to be true. So here, again, I'm just going to highlight for you. If you don't have a highlighter, you don't really need one. I'm just doing it here so you can see what I'm talking about. So in this problem, we have 2 times all this highlighted stuff, okay, and that equals 18. So we know that 2 times 9 equals 18. So that means all this highlighted stuff has to equal 9. Now, repeat again. So all that highlighted stuff squared is going to equal 9. And we know that 3 squared equals 9. So we could say that x plus 1 equals 3. And from here, if x plus 1 equals 3, then we can say that x has to be 2. And that gives us one of our x-intercepts. So x has to be 2. Now, at this step, there's another direction you can go. And you have to think about squareds, right? So x plus 1, we said, could be 3, but 3 is not the only number that you can square to get 9. You can also square negative 3, because negative 3 squared is also equal to 9. So that means this highlighted stuff in here could also be negative 3. So we can write x plus 1 can be negative 3. And if that's the case, then we want x to be negative 4, because negative 4 plus 1 would be negative 3. So here we have another x value that would also work. And those are our 2 x-intercepts. So to summarize, what we do is we start by knowing already that it has to have a 0. So we know y has to be 0. We know that the 0 has to be in the y spot. From there, we just deduce based on what we know, and we know how math works, we can kind of say what things equal. So we know 18 minus 18 equals 0. So that means all this yellow stuff has to be 18. We know 2 times 9 equals 18. So that means all this stuff has to be 9. And if this stuff is 9, this squared equals 9. So that has to be either 3 or it has to be negative 3. And that means x can be 2 or x can be negative 4. I really like solving in this way because it's not just about following steps. It forces you to think about what has to be true, and that can be really powerful. Solving using the traditional method can also be powerful because you can solve things that you don't understand. But this kind of forces you to understand what's going on, which can help you to understand other solving things later on. Okay, we're going to do one more of these just so that you have another example to go on. So let's say we have y equals -3, x plus 7 squared plus 27. Okay. So we're looking for our x-intercepts. We know that they have to have 0 for the y's. So we can replace y with 0. You can ignore that bell. That's just the bell to start the next class here. We know that -27 plus 27 equals 0. So we know this has to be -27. We know -3 times 9 equals -27. So that means this stuff has to be 9. Now here, we know that 3 squared equals 9, and we know -3 squared equals 9. That means x plus 7 could be 3, or x plus 7 could be -3. And it both will work. So if x plus 7 is 3, that means x would be -4. And if x plus 7 is -3, that means x can be -10. And so here we have our two x-intercepts, -4, 0, and -10, 0.